Hey, car friends, I'm somewhere in California in the Los Angeles area. I don't know.
Long Beach.
Are we in Long Beach?
Long
Oh my God,
Beach,
Long
yeah,
Beach
yeah.
sounds really good. This is John Willhoit, and with me is Torben from JP, and I'm Mads, and we're gonna have a little nerdy talk about different muffler product development generations, I guess.
Exactly.
And you put for me two marvelous 356 cars on the lift. Tell me what you're working on.
Okay, this is a car full restoration from us. It's got a 2.2S engine. It has one of the Sport 2 SSI mufflers on it that were made especially for us. And both of these are Sport 2s. This one has the straight pipes. The car is a 56, so there were no cutouts for S pipes or anything. And
you're nodding, Tom, because you made this.
We made this in
participated in it. It's a joint venture between the two of you.
John came up with the idea. You found the sound that you wanted us to build.
Yes. We have a stock sound and a more of a sporty sound.
Yeah.
They've both been tested on our dyno. We have a 902S Superflow dyno. And they make good power, and it's a great product. We've been totally happy with it.
And I'm trying to get it here because it's like a limited edition, super named, branded production. It's a Willhoit by SSI.
Exactly.
So it doesn't get more personalized than that.
No. I mean, we could put Torben's name on it, but
we could make a little sticker though. That would be nice.
We don't want to devalue it.
But for you, John, it's obviously not just about improving your own car, but this is a product that you sell then to the 356s in the area.
Yeah. It's been super popular. We just introduced it just this year.
Yeah.
Middle of the, when did we get them? Probably
Midsummer.
Midsummer time, and we finally got them on a few cars, and we've probably got 50 of them out there running around now. And this car has a lot of upgrades.
Wonderful. I'm enjoying the brakes and the magnesium wheels.
It was a completely stock car. This is the original color, aquamarine blue metallic. It's going to get a red interior, but it was a completely original car with matching engine, matching trans, matching drum brakes, matching wheels. We take the brakes and we take the transmission and the engine out, put them in a crate. And
for heaven's sake, don't throw anything out.
No. This is all.
It goes on the shelf.
This is all saved for, to maintain the provenance of the car as a matching number car. And then we install our 2.2 engine. We install a Wevo transmission. Now, Wevo transmission it's a case and a differential, and you use the gears from a 901. And there's some modification that goes along, but it's a swing axle trans, so you don't have to modify the car or cut the car apart and put 911 suspension.
So nothing is irreversible.
Oh, no. This
important.
We could put this car 3 weeks max. We could have the whole car back to completely original. So no depreciation of value because we made it into some kind of a monstrosity. This is still a very original car. The neat thing about these is this is a 1,700-pound car, so the power to weight ratio, this is a over 160 horsepower engine with over 150 foot-pounds of torque. So it's really fun to drive.
Yeah.
And it's got all of our goodies. We have Spax shocks that are made for us by Spax in the UK with our valving. We have disc brakes that come from CSP in Germany, and they are a wide 5, so we're able to use the stock looking wheel, and these wheels are Techno-Magnesia made in Italy, and we're the US importer for those. So it's got all the goodies.
Yeah, but does it ever end? I mean, that evolution on a car from the 50s, where does it end? Is this the pinnacle of evolution?
No, never.
It never ends.
Not if you're like somebody like me. No, it never ends.
No.
You just continue to lay awake at night trying to think of ways to make it better, you know.
Yeah.
But we're still running carburetors on the engine, but you know, that could, I've been talking to Genv, so there could
develop
be
like a
fuel
throttle
injection.
body system eventually.
But it's got to be something that's reversible, that doesn't require modification to the car.
The reason I'm asking, John, is before we turned on the camera, you and I just spoke about these supercars with the 1,000 horsepower and copper ceramic brakes. I mean, that also never seems to end, but eventually it becomes a little bit silly. At least you and I agreed that, I mean, who the hell wants 1,000 horsepower?
I mean, I guess some people could argue with us about that, but I mean, like you pointed out.
Who can put it into sane use.
Yeah, you pointed out that driving a low or underpowered car fast can be a lot more fun than driving a overpowered car fast.
Yeah.
I always joked I had a GT3 and people were talking about chips and everything. I said, I need a chip to make it slower. The car's too fast for me.
Yeah.
But these are fun. These, you can push these and they're a lot of fun.
Let's look at the other one.
Okay.
So basically, I mean, for a walkabout, this is the same car, but it's not at all the same car.
No, this car has, again, stock transmission, but it has our 2.2 engine. Same performance, a little over 160 and about mid 150 torque. And the neat thing about this engine is it makes 150 foot-pounds at 3,500 RPM. So it's got super linear, nice torque. The exhaust, the Sport 2 exhaust actually adds a little performance with a little bit sportier sound, not crazy. It's just the right sound.
Just so everybody has a chance to hear this is Sport 2 muffler with the S-Pikes. Too loud. No. It's a nice sound.
And the neat thing is the way we developed this on the dyno, it adds torque in the lower range. Not so much in the upper range, but it adds torque below 4,500 RPM, which makes it real good throttle response. You know, input of power is really good. And the construction of the muffler is fantastic. It's all stainless. We do it with S-pipes. That one had the straight pipes. This one has the S-pipes. You can use it on an A model or on a B model.
Is there a difference? I mean, you not told me that you roll them, so we're not talking about feelings and emotions. We're talking about science. I mean, you have a scientific approach to this. Do these these little bends of the tubes, do they give or add or take anything?
No, we've tested on the dyno. The S-pipes don't make any difference. It does have a little bit different sound.
Yeah.
With straight pipes. And, you know, as far as the construction, Torben, you could comment on that.
Yeah, it's the construction is obviously, as you said, you have dynoed them, but it's about getting the right back pressure and the right flow into the canister. Because you are right that the tips, the tailpipes will define how we hear the sound. It is different, as we saw over there with the straight pipe.
Yes.
The way the turbulence comes out of the muffler, you would hear it as two different mufflers. Same category, but it's just slightly different with the S-pipes. And you did a brilliant thing on the S-pipes that you can use them for the bumper out.
Yes.
Or you can use them without the...
Yeah, we make the tips long enough so that if you don't... A lot of guys like to eliminate the bumper guards.
Yeah.
And then they can run the tips straight out. And we left them long so you can cut them to the length you want. Yeah, you can't make them longer once they're cut. But when you run them into the bumper guard like this, then obviously you have to cut them off shorter, but that's somewhat easy to just cut them off. And we have a really robust stainless clamp from Norma that will not come loose. So no worries about losing your S-pipes while you're driving down the road, which was a thing that happens occasionally on the stock mufflers. So,
but isn't it amazing, guys, that we're talking about technology in cars from the 50s, but we can still refine and do these little tweaks and these little twerks and these little improvements.
For sure, yeah.
I mean,
yeah, absolutely.
It's a spiral that never seems to end.
No, and it's fun. There's something about, I mean, if you're a car person, it's something in the car culture. It's always about making it a little faster, a little better. I remember my brother when he first drove, his first car was a Model A, and I think it had probably like 30 horsepower. And he got some kind of special dual carb manifold, so it bumped it up to like 35 horsepower.
Wow. 15%.
Yeah, right.
No, but it's in many cases, it's also a question about perception. We spoke about it in an earlier episode that, put on a sports exhaust and it sounds a little faster. And, we have this whole idea that if you put a couple of stickers on a car, it's going to go a little better, but it's not provable, but we all know it is so. And sound is very much a part of this tactile experience of driving the car.
Absolutely.
Sound and look, because in addition to this, you also work with like Sebring style.
Oh, yeah. Like on the 4-cam engine. Yeah.
So what makes people choose that as opposed to what we see here, John? What's your...
Well, we can build this engine with a stock 3 and make it look like a stock 356. And it's about, for a complete engine ready to bolt in is about $55,000. For that, that's a reproduction of a 4-cam. 175,000. So, and you gotta redo the whole. Put a front oil cooler. It's a dry sump oiling system.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Carrera engine is special because it's a Carrera. But the 2.2s make more power than most of the Carrera motors.
Which is not what you would think.
You wouldn't think that, but those were designed as a racing engine, and they were designed to, be durable and last for, 24 hours in a race, and they weren't specifically intended as a street engine. No. So the torque comes on at a higher RPM, and they rev up higher because they're not a pushrod engine.
Yeah.
But
will you allow me a slightly controversial question, which is my own little mission here? Where do you think where do you think it's going? And what I'm fishing for is that these cars gradually attain such a high value that more and more people can't really drive them. They can't insure them. They have nowhere to put them. They don't want to take it out in the rain. They certainly don't want to take it out in the snow. And it ends up being fantastic, but on a standstill basis. And where do you see this development going with your clientele?
Well, okay, I'll tell you about the customers that I have. And I have some customers that I just talked to a guy on the phone, and he wants to sell his car, and he bought the car we did. He bought it 3 years ago. And he said, it probably doesn't have 5 miles on it since I bought it. Okay, well, and if that's what he wants to do, that's great. But I have another customer, we just did a speedster like this. And it was a supermodel, but we did all the extras that this car has. He took the car to the West Coast holiday and drove it up to the top of Pikes Peak. And I said, oh man, weren't you kind of stressed out, driving your perfect car up there? He said, well, what do I have it for? That's what he has it for. Yeah. And it's like you see guys with they want to buy a new 5-year-old GT3 with 4 miles on it. I mean, I don't get it, but that's, for those people, that's what they like, so.
But with the extensive work that you do on these cars, nobody's really asking about mileage anymore. I mean, who cares?
Not really. No, not on these. I mean, There may be groups of people that want a car with low miles, but in most cases it doesn't matter.
Would you join me in this little celebration that cars should be driven? I mean, the primary reason for a car like this, or like any car, really, is
most
to
of our
get out and drive it.
Now,
Yeah.
I mean, our customers are driving the parts JP Group that you guys make are intended to keep the cars going.
Absolutely.
And so, you know, thank goodness there are companies, and some are little small companies, and some are, you know, big companies that continue to make parts for these old cars. And it's funny, I've been doing this over 50 years, and 50 years ago, we had trouble getting certain parts
that are now easily accessible.
That now, or we don't even think about it. Yeah.
But thanks to you, Torben, and JP Group for making it, and of course you want to keep the cars driving because you're never going to send a fender if there's not a fender bender.
We're in the...
That's a little poem. I just wrote that poem right out of the cuff like that.
That's great. That's great.
Come on, that's our community.
Yeah.
So that's what we do.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's fun, and people ask me what's your favorite car, and I always tell them, you know, it's the people that I've met in the last 50 years. You know, if I want to go to Denmark and see you guys, I have people everywhere, friends everywhere, and that's the important thing to me. The cars are great, and we have fun with the cars. But yeah, it's the camaraderie, and that's what makes it happen.
That hopefully will never end.
Yes.
On that note, I'm going to back out of the picture here, guys. Thank you very much. Thank you, John, for showing us around, and thank you, Torben, for participating.
Thanks
you do
for
the
helping us
handshake. I
out
just
with these
disappear
cars.
on the horizon like this. Hey car friends, thank you for watching JP Group Club. This is our new YouTube channel. It's obviously sponsored by JP Group, and we're aiming to tickle you in all the right places with information and entertainment pertaining air-cooled cars from primarily Porsche and Volkswagen. Stay tuned, and we're going to take you through production. We're going to test products at the workshop. We're going to take you to interesting places, drive fascinating cars, and meet relevant people. Help me get this show on the road. Press the subscribe button and like, and whatever you can, share it with your friends, and we're going to make it fly. Thanks a lot for watching.